PC. Robert here, and I just want to put together an entry for Robert's On the Turntables contest for 5 albums that were a major influence on you. And I want to do that a little bit differently, which I hope will be acceptable. But first, Robert in his recent video spoke of Bebop Deluxe and Bill Nelson. I wanted to let you know I'm a big fan of Big Bebop Deluxe and Bill Nelson. I have all of their studio output on vinyl. They're not accessible to me at the moment, but I do have the best of and the rest of Bebop Deluxe on a 2 LP vinyl that I could put my hands on. Comes in a gatefold, and it has their hits plus some unreleased material, which makes it interesting. And I also have Futurist Manifesto, which is a collection of 4 CDs, which has all of their studio output plus a bunch of bonus material. Live in the Air Age, which is actually what got me started on Bebop Deluxe back in the days when FM radio was real radio and they could play what they wanted to. This album was popular on that local radio station, and Live in the Air Age caused me to pursue the rest of the band's material. And in the past couple of years, Sonic Records has produced a box set for each album that Bebop Deluxe did. They're nice. They're the size of the John Lennon box sets, more or less. This one comes with a very nice booklet. Has lots of photos and articles, as expected. Pictures of ephemera. And then you do get some ephemeral. These are cards with press photos of each member of the band. And each one of them has the artwork for the cover on the back. And that's my only complaint about these box sets. They kind of reproduce the cover art for the album too many times. This is the folder that holds the CDs, and it comes with 4. One of them is the album mixed in 5.1, which is always my favorite, and the mixes are done very well in all of these. It comes with a nice poster, has tour dates, so that was Sonic Records that put these out. Got one for Futurama. Each one of them has tons of bonus material and a 5.1 mix. Sunburst finish. I'm not going to take everything out of each and every one of these. modern music. Drastic Plastic. And the only box set that I have not picked up so far is Live in the Air Age, which is why I showed you the CD version. Live in the Air Age, they chose not to mix in 5.1 was the first reason I haven't picked it up. Secondly, it was more expensive than these, and it contains, I think it's 15 or 16 CDs of all live material. So it is on my list. I definitely would like to get it into my collection, but it has to wait a little bit. And eventually I'll tell you that story. But now we're going to get into the albums that influenced me. And rather than going back to my youth, you know, I could list all the albums by Paul Revere and the Raiders and Sgt. Pepper and some Frank Zappa and things of that nature, and probably should. But I thought what I would do is pick up in 1990, where there was a huge confluence of things happening in my life that changed the way I looked at music in quite a way. And to put it bluntly, in that year, I got a divorce, I got sober, and I started going to a little club near me called the Down Home. And the Down Home is a very eclectic, small listening room with emphasis on listening. They do sell alcohol, but as I mentioned before, I don't partake. But I appreciated the fact, and still appreciate the fact, that their emphasis is on the music, and they are not one of those places where you go to get wild, so to speak. They expect people to be respectful and to appreciate the music, and that's the way it goes down there. It only seats like 165 people total, but I've seen some great acts in there, some Grammy winners. Bela Fleck and the Flecktones used to play there on the regular. I saw their first two shows after Howard left. They played there as a trio for 2 nights. So it's a great little venue, and I love it. And they changed my outlook so much on different kinds of music. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a few of those. First off, I'm going to talk about R. Hooley Records. Don't know how many of you are familiar with R. Hooley. And this is the journey of Chris Strakowitz. He is the guy that basically founded R. Hooley. This is the CD version of this box set. It contains 5 discs. It has a very nice booklet. And there's Chris Strakowitz sitting by his car with a bunch of records. And similar in the vein of Alan Lomax, and Ralph Peer, Chris journeyed the country and sometimes the world with his tape machine and recorded people performing in their kitchen, on their porch, under a tree out front of the house, and things of that nature. The quality of the recordings are unbelievable. There's a lot of names you will recognize on here. Big Mama Thornton for one, Del McCoury, Big Joe Williams, Lightning Hopkins, Fred McDowell, the New Orleans Ragtime Orchestra, Mance Lipscomb, Clifton Chenier is on here. Fred McDowell, I mentioned him already. Beausoleil, C.J. Chenier, Flaco Jimenez, Katie Webster, the Rebirth Brass Band, the Treme Brass Band. Very nice booklet. Has many pictures from along Chris's journey. Each artist is featured in here, and they talk about how, when, and where the recordings were made. And they had this box set on sale for $20 when I got it. I don't know if it is still. If you can get your hands on it for $20 or even more, I would recommend that you grab it. You know, it opened my eyes and ears to a lot of different kinds of music. There's a lot of music from south of the border on here. I have come to be a big fan of Zydeco music and Louisiana music. The movie The Big Easy is what got me started on that. You know, there are some Sacred Steel bands on here, similar to, I'm blanking on the name right now, but it's great stuff. You know, they have many albums that they've released, and every one of them are those type of recordings. And I highly recommend you check them out. Secondly, in those days, my mind became open more to jazz influences and fusion type influences, which brings us to Weather Report, Heavy Weather. And I actually had this album long before my musical tastes opened up that wide. I had a lot of albums that I wasn't ready for in my collection, but I'm grateful for that, because when you get ready for them, they're on the shelf. So I'm going to show a double in this category. Brand X, Livestock, Jazz Fusion. I came over to them by the way of Phil Collins being on the drums. You got John Goodsall on guitars, whom recently passed away, I'm sad to say. Percy Jones on bass. Robin Lumley on keyboards. Morris Pert percussion. And Kenwood Denard on drums. This is another one that my young ears weren't quite ready for, but I bought every album they put out. And now I'm really glad I did. I also recently picked up a CD set that has all their studio output on it, except for some recent stuff and some bonus material. So if you're not familiar with Brand X and you like fusion type music, you really need to look into these guys. I think Phil was not on one of their albums, and I think he's probably not on their recent material, which will probably come to an end since we lost John Goodsall. But that really got my journey into jazz started, and I have a lot of jazzes I see shown on the channel quite often. Next, I'm going to show this as a representative. This is While No One Was Looking, toasting 20 years of Bloodshot Records. And I think there's some sad stuff going on up at Bloodshot here recently. Some people have stepped down, and I don't know if they've locked the doors or what. This is a 3 LP sampler, and it was interesting how they did this. They had a lot of new artists on their label covering a lot of the older artists on Bloodshot Records. This has got Blitzen Trapper, Chuck Prophet's on here, Hiss Golden Messenger, Ted Leo, Split Single, Shaky Graves, The Minus Five, etc. Andrew Young and Nora O'Connor. But Bloodshot Records got me into alt country, cow punk, a lot of music that I really didn't think was going to be in my collection. And through a lot of their samplers, I've come to love a lot of these artists, and I'm really grateful for it. This is a very limited edition on red vinyl. I don't think they pressed very many of them. But it was, I think it was their 11-year compilation sampler that really got me started on this stuff. And they had the old 97s originally, and they had Ryan Adams originally. So they've had a lot of good artists in there. And if you haven't listened to that kind of music, Uncle Tupelo, old 97s, things of that nature, you might want to give them a spin and see what you think. So there we go. There's cowpunk. And then genuine house rocking music. Talking Alligator Records here now. And you know, while I had enjoyed some blues, mostly blues rock, you know, there's a lot of the rock artists getting into the blues that kind of brought me over, the Allman Brothers, bands of that nature. But then I started picking up some Alligator Records samplers, and they got me into the living blues, you know, and that's what they were all about. They wanted to capture the living Chicago blues artists while they were still with us. This one has Albert Collins, Big Twist and the Mellow Fellows. Big Twist has passed on. Coco Taylor, Little Ed and the Blues Imperials, who are up for an award at the Blues Foundation Handy Awards this year. Little Charlie and the Nightcats, Johnny Winter, Donald Kinsey and the Kinsey Report, Lonnie Brooks, Lonnie Mack, James Cotton, Roy Buchanan, Delbert McClinton, Gatemouth Brown. I'm glad to say I got to see Gatemouth Brown. He opened for Eric Clapton and then came out and played with Eric Clapton. But they got me onto the blues train. You know, a lot of this music I had to listen to multiple times for it to grab a hold of me. But I'm one of those who will keep coming back to some music. If it doesn't strike me in the beginning, I will keep giving it a chance until I'm absolutely certain it's not going to sneak up and hit me in the back of the head. And this stuff did. So if you're not into the blues, the real blues, I highly recommend you go to Alligator and get some of their samplers. Samplers have turned me on to so much music in my days of collecting. And speaking of samplers, I know this isn't real popular amongst the classic rock fans. This is a Windham Hill sampler from 1982. I never thought I would have any interest in new age music, but I tell you, I really appreciate it now, and especially around Christmas time. I've got some Windham Hill and Narada samplers of Christmas music that I just absolutely love. And you know, they turned me on to people like Daryl Anger, and I've seen him live a time or two. He's a musician's musician. Michael Hedges was on this label. I really miss Michael Hedges, but I got to see him a couple of times, and you know, he was an innovative guitarist. A lot of people are copying the things that he did and created, but he did them first. And if you haven't ever seen him play, look up some videos on YouTube. There's not a whole lot of them for him, but it's great stuff.